Abortion is no longer a constitutional right in the United States.
The health and life of women in this nation are now at risk.
We do give voice to the voiceless.
Here in Utah, the trigger law is already in effect.
Women must decide their fate!
Right now, Utahns rally at the Capitol building with anger building and questions looming.
Yeah, we're just standing up for our choice.
What this historic decision means for countless women who call Utah home.
Our unborn will receive much greater protection.
But tonight, many say this is a day to celebrate.
This wasn't just about my rights. It was also about another human being's rights.
Hear from Utahns who support Roe v. Wade being overturned.
I find it problematic that you're going to criminalize healthcare providers when they're just thinking about the safety of their patients.
Plus, we go in depth on Utah's trigger law, what has instantly changed for Utah women, and the push for new legislation.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Tonight, nearly 1,000 people gathered at the Utah State Capitol to rally over the highly divisive issue of abortion. This morning, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade after nearly 50 years of being law. Because of that, Utah's trigger law banning abortions took effect this evening. The New York Times reports Utah now joins 19 other states with trigger laws that ban or restrict abortions in some form. Utah's law bans all elective abortions with rare exception, those being rape, incest, or a medical emergency. Fox 13 News has team coverage of this historic day. We start with Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree live at the state capitol where people are making their voices heard tonight. Jenna.
Bob, this was a huge rally at the Capitol tonight. UHP was prepared for 2,000 people. Salt Lake City telling us it was closer to 1,000, but some people said this was one of the largest rallies they've ever seen on Capitol Hill. Just really goes to show how angry, devastated, but also unified many Utahns are against the Supreme Court's decision.
I'm here to fight for women's rights.
My body, my choice! Wrong life is a life!
Heard the news this morning, and I just drove straight here to see if people would be protesting, and they were. And yeah, we're just standing up for our choice.
Women must decide their fate!
Women have the right to, should have the right in any state to not have a child if they don't want to.
But think of all those people who don't have transportation, who don't have a health care insurance, who don't have a support system. How are they going to get to care? We've got to help them. But remember, Planned Parenthood's going nowhere.
Thank you, everyone, for showing up today.
We've been organizing since the leaked document.
Very nauseated to wake up to the news this morning.
To have autonomy over their body and the right to get the medical care that they need and the right to resist oppressive laws that will disproportionately impact Black, Indigenous, and people of color.
So we knew when it happened, we had to have a place for people to come and be with others who believed as they did. The reproductive rights is basic health care.
This ruling is founded on white supremacy.
We'll be open tomorrow to provide education and information to people, and we'll be open tomorrow to answer all of these people's questions.
This map really shows just how far women would have to travel to get an abortion. From northern cities, Salt Lake, Ogden, Provo, the closest Planned Parenthood that offers services is in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. That's about 6 hours from downtown Salt Lake. For St. George, the nearest clinic is 3.5 hours away in Las Vegas. Now, when Planned Parenthood first planned the rally earlier today, Utah's trigger law hadn't officially gone into effect yet. We now know today was the last day for Planned Parenthood's elective abortion services here in in Utah. Reporting live from the Capitol, Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Jenna, thank you. Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill says the legal terrain moving forward is uncertain after the U.S. Supreme Court's decision this morning. He says he will enforce the laws of the state of Utah faithfully, as well as analyze his ethical obligation to pursue criminal charges only when sufficient evidence exists to support a conviction.
If those cases are brought to us, we're going to look at those issues, but that means we're going to look at them like we do any other case. We're going to look to see when and if they are brought to us, what is the allegation, what is the evidence, what are the elements that need to be met, and will the interest of justice be served by the prosecution.
He continued to explain that how these cases will be brought forward in the future will be determined by local law enforcement. We continue our team coverage now with Fox 13 News reporter Spencer Joseph. He spoke with advocates at the state capitol tonight who are celebrating the Supreme Court's decision. Spencer.
Good evening, Bob. Certainly many making their voices heard here on Utah's Capitol Hill. But today, rounding out our team coverage, I spoke with the other side, those that are anti-abortion in the state of Utah, many of them fighting for that trigger law in 2020, and they weighed in on today's Supreme Court decision.
Ecstatic. I mean, there's just no other word for it.
Oh, my goodness, the excitement is over the top.
As the Supreme Court was making its ruling this morning,
I have been at my computer refreshing my page and watching Supreme Court opinions all week.
Those who are anti-abortion in Utah were watching on.
For Utah, it means for the first time in 50 years, our unborn will receive much greater protection.
Those like Mary Lee Boyack of the Abortion Free Utah Coalition.
We feel that this represents the opinion of the vast majority of Utahns.
Others like Mary Taylor have also been on the front lines.
The winds of change seem to be blowing.
That was her earlier this year. Today,
I didn't think it would happen this soon, but oh my goodness, we're so happy it did.
For her, this fight is personal.
When I was 19 years old, I had an abortion. I went into an abortion clinic and talked to a counselor and was told that my baby was a clump of cells the size of a pencil point. I learned later my baby was 2.5 inches long. She had a heartbeat and brainwaves.
She now leads Pro-Life Utah, an organization that defends life and offers resources to women.
Let's take this opportunity to empower women. We've been sold that for years, that abortion was empowerment for women, and as a post-abortive woman, I will tell you it is not.
But she knows this will be controversial.
I fully understand the passion behind women's rights, and I am right there with you on women's rights. What I realized in my journey was this wasn't just about my rights. It was also about another human being's rights.
And while the controversy continues, for those who are anti-abortion in the state of Utah, tonight they feel a sense of peace.
It's going to be awesome to welcome, thousands of lives to benefit our state. Who knows what they'll be able to do.
Pro-life is synonymous with pro-women and pro-love, and we need to take this opportunity to support women and truly empower women.
Both of those we spoke with tonight said it's important for their organizations to start ramping up resources for women in the wake of Utah's trigger law. Now, they did not gather anywhere in the state tonight, instead saving that for Saturday, July 2nd, to gather for a pro-life rally here at the Capitol. But for now, live on Capitol Hill, Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Spencer, thank you. Governor Spencer Cox and Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson issued a joint statement today praising the Supreme Court ruling. They write, "This administration has been dedicated to giving a voice to the most vulnerable in our society, including the unborn. We wholeheartedly support this Supreme Court ruling and are encouraged to see abortion law will be left to elected state representatives. As pro-life advocates, this administration is equally committed to supporting women and families in Utah. We all need to do more to support mothers, pregnant women, and children facing poverty and trauma." As we try to take the emotion out of this issue and examine what the Supreme Court's ruling today really means, we asked the director of the Olene Walker Institute of Politics and Public Service to weigh in.
I think people should take the time to read the majority's opinion, the concurring opinions, and the dissenting opinions so they can get get sort of a broad array of analysis when it comes to this, because they're the true, legal scholars in this situation that have been wrestling with this issue for a long time. And this is their thoughts. Politicians can augment that and certainly give a good perspective on that. But if you want to go to the source, that's always the better option.
Coming up in a few minutes, we'll take a closer look at how Utah's congressional delegation is reacting to this unforgettable moment in our nation's history. Switching gears to weather now, and it is the first full weekend of summer, and what a beautiful sunset it was. We're looking live at our Natural History Museum camera. Looks nice right now, but we will see active weather in some areas of the state the next few days. Allison?
Yeah, that was one thing that the guests that I had in town last weekend commented on, was how light it is. And it's still late at night. It's 9:10 and it's still rather light out there. Obviously getting dark as that sun just went down, but it'll rise tomorrow around 6 a.m. and then we have that chance for some more storms to develop. But mostly clear sky here across the state right now for tomorrow. Critical fire weather for much of the state. The Uinta Basin down through Price, down to south of Provo, inclusive of Spanish Fort Canyon, down through Richfield, Delta, Cedar City, St. George, Kanab, Lake Powell. Will have that critical fire weather tomorrow. 10 o'clock tonight, get ready for temps to be around 65 to 75 for much of the state. So a comfortable evening tomorrow morning. Saturday morning, near 60 to 65 degrees for Ogden, Salt Lake, Provo. And then into tomorrow afternoon, it's going to be hot. We'll make it into the 90s or close to it for much of the state. And then we're going to see some more showers and thunderstorms developing in southern Utah during the afternoon tomorrow and for eastern Utah. Coming up this hour, we'll look at that flash flood forecast for the weekend. Let you know what you can expect for the UV tomorrow as well if you need to wear that sunscreen. And also how long this monsoonal pattern will be lasting. We'll talk more specifics on all of that coming up later in the hour, plus in your Super 7-day forecast.
The court literally taking America back 150 years.
Reaction is pouring in nationwide in the wake of the Supreme Court's landmark decision. What top lawmakers are saying as demonstrations happen across the country tonight.
We are concerned that this will have a negative impact on a company's ability to grow.
Plus, what some companies in Utah's tech industry are planning to help employees impacted by the decision. Tragedy in northern Utah. A student pilot and instructor from Utah State University killed in a plane crash. What we're learning from investigators tonight. And while Rudy Gobert was not traded, there are some new faces among the Utah Jazz after the NBA draft. We'll introduce you to them coming up in Fox 13 Sports. Tonight, peaceful marches and demonstrations are going on in cities all across the country. These are images of rallies in Atlanta, Boston, Chicago, and New York. Many are protesting the U.S. Supreme Court's decision to overturn abortion precedent here in the United States. Fox's Caroline Shively has the latest from the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C.
Because of the court's ruling, abortion could soon be illegal or greatly restricted in more than half the states.
Emotional outbursts from pro-life and pro-choice activists outside the Supreme Court after one of the most monumental rulings in its history. The opinion in a Mississippi case challenging abortion rights, overturning Roe v. Wade, the case that for years guaranteed the right to an abortion in the United States. Now abortion becomes an issue decided by individual states, 13 of which have so-called trigger laws to ban abortion upon Roe v. Wade's reversal.
What this means to women is such an insult. It's a slap in the face to women.
Conservatives hailing the ruling, the majority opinion authored by Justice Samuel Alito writing, quote, "The Constitution makes no reference to abortion and no such right is implicitly protected by any constitutional provision."
Today we do give voice to the voiceless, and I am hopeful that the state legislatures across the country will take action and swiftly pass protections for our vulnerable babies.
The White House reacting quickly to Roe's downfall, calling it a sad day for the country and saying the decision puts the health of women at risk.
It's a realization of an extreme ideology and a tragic error by the Supreme Court.
The president insisting he can't change abortion laws with executive orders and pointing to November's congressional midterm elections, saying Roe and personal freedom are on the ballot.
Both sides say they will take this fight to the halls of Congress, pushing for federal legislation. Outside the Supreme Court, I'm Caroline Shively, Fox 13 News, Utah.
All 6 members of Utah's congressional delegation expressed support for today's decision. From Utah Senator Mitt Romney, the sanctity of human life is a foundational American principle, and the lives of our children, both born and unborn, deserve our protection. I support the court's decision, which means that laws regarding abortion will now rightfully be returned to the people and their elected representatives. Utah Senator Mike Lee wrote in part, while the 63 million lives lost to abortion since Roe can never be reclaimed, we can take heart that the Supreme Court has recognized that Roe v. Wade and its progeny belong next to Plessy v. Ferguson and Dred Scott v. Sandford in the anti-canon of Supreme Court history. Fox 13 News also spoke with Utah Congressman Blake Moore and John Curtis. Both support the Supreme Court's decision, but say they're also working to help women.
I've sponsored legislation that's heavily focused on adoption. I've been a board member of an adoption for foster children organization. And I think this is a chance for us to double our efforts to make sure that we're there for the support, the education that's needed.
It's important that those of us who are celebrating today to remember this is a complicated issue, that we need to be in touch with women and their issues and unwanted pregnancies. How can we better support them? How can we enhance the adoption process? I think those are all very important questions for us to ask that could bring some healing.
Coming up in our next half hour, hear from Utah lawmakers looking to file new bills related to abortion and local faith leaders about their take on the Supreme Court's decision. That's coming up at 9:30.
Well, a beautiful sunset tonight here in Salt Lake City. Temperatures currently 80 degrees, so it's rather warm out there. Tomorrow we're going to have an extreme UV index. So that means if you're taking the kids to the park, if you're planning on going out for a walk, do it early in the day and also make sure you're wearing plenty of sunscreen, a hat, sunglasses. Find shade when you can and limit that time outdoors tomorrow, especially during those peak hours during the late morning and afternoon. So satellite and radar dry here for much of the state. We still have a few sprinkles down towards Capitol Reef, but no warnings to know of right now, but we have that potential tomorrow for some strong thunderstorms to develop. So our storm threat here across the region, all of this mint green that you're seeing, that's a chance for some thunderstorms. This does include Ely down through Cedar City, up through Richfield, all the way up towards Spanish Fort Canyon through Price, the Uinta Basin, Moab down towards the Four Corners, Blanding, through our national parks, all the chance for some thunderstorms tomorrow. Here along the Wasatch Front, early in the day when you wake up, you'll have a lot of sunshine from the get-go. Temperatures in the low 60s, 6, 7, 8 a.m. and then into the 70s starting at 9 o'clock tomorrow. So in the morning, we're going to have cool start. Get out early. If you've got a dog with a lot of hair, make sure you're being careful with the paws on asphalt the next few days. Make sure you're putting your hand down first to test that, because we're close to 90 for highs here along the Wasatch Front with a lot of sunshine tomorrow. St. George 101, we're going to have the chance for some showers and thunderstorms to develop for southern and eastern Utah. So for Ogden, you're likely staying dry through the weekend, and then you'll see some more isolated chances returning Monday through Thursday next week. For Provo, your chance of precipitation is going to be a little more active than that. So obviously you're a little further south, and then into central Utah, we're going to have isolated showers Saturday, Sunday, into Monday, but mainly again Tuesday through Wednesday next week with some widely scattered showers during the evenings. For St. George, you'll also have somewhat active weather every few days. Chances for isolated showers for the next couple of afternoons as we continue with this monsoonal pattern. So tomorrow morning we start seeing some clouds at 9 a.m. into far southern Utah. Then we end up with that potential for some thunderstorms to develop into central, southern, and eastern Utah Saturday at 4 p.m. St. George close to 105 through the next couple of days. So we've got a hot 7-day forecast. Overnight temps in the 70s. And here along the Wasatch Front, we're close to 90 Saturday, Sunday, closer to 100 degrees by next Tuesday. We'll talk more about that heat wave and also what you can expect for flash flooding concerns tomorrow, coming up later in the hour.
Allison, thank you. Just ahead, what companies are offering to reimburse employees for expenses if they travel to get an abortion. And middle school students are driving cars, but they're not behind the wheel. We'll show you. Today marked 1 year since the deadly condo collapse in Surfside, Florida. 98 people were killed when the building came crashing down in the middle of the night. The official cause of the collapse still has not been determined, but a lead investigator says there are about 24 possible explanations. Meanwhile, a judge this week approved a compensation settlement for the victims topping $1 billion. In the first year they were available, COVID-19 vaccines saved more than 19 million lives. In a new study, researchers determined the impact by estimating the additional lives lost if vaccines had not been available. The study also suggests up to 600,000 more lives could have been saved if the World Health Organization's goal had been met of vaccinating 40% of each country's eligible population by the end of 2021. Newly diagnosed cases of HIV dropped during the first year of the pandemic. New CDC data shows HIV diagnoses declined by 17% in 2020. However, researchers say this does not mean there were fewer cases. They say there were just fewer people getting tested. The CDC report also found some of the most at-risk groups saw the sharpest declines in testing in 2020. But now HIV testing sites are back up and operating. The CDC recommends teens and adults get at least one HIV test in their lifetime. Toyota's plan to compete in the electric car business is off to a rough start. The Japanese automaker is recalling nearly 3,000 of its BZ4X crossover vehicles for wheel bolts that could come loose. The company says the cause is under investigation, but warns the whole wheel could come off, risking a crash. The BZ4X is Toyota's first global electric car. Went on sale just a few months ago.
We are giving every resource possible to women and babies who will again be impacted by this decision.
Coming up, now that Utah's trigger law is in effect, how will countless women be impacted? And where does the law go from here?
Coming up, we'll listen to Utah faith leaders react to today's Supreme Court decision on abortion.
A plane from this flight school took off this morning. We'll tell you what we know so far about why it didn't come back.
As we reported at the beginning of this newscast, Utah's abortion trigger law is now in effect. And lawmakers on Utah's Capitol Hill are planning even more bills related to abortion. Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow continues our team coverage.
We're over 3,000 abortions, and I'm hopeful that we will be in a position soon to cut that number significantly.
House and Senate Republicans celebrated the U.S. Supreme Court's decision overturning Roe v. Wade and letting states decide how to handle abortion.
We hope that people will look at the support that they have and look at motherhood as an opportunity, which is the way, honestly, I have thought of motherhood for my entire life.
The new law bans all elective abortions with some exceptions: rape, incest, if the health of the mother is in danger, or viability of the fetus. It could be a second-degree felony under the new law for anyone who provides what will soon be an illegal abortion. The Utah Department of Health and Human Services regulates abortion facilities, but does not provide criminal enforcement.
Miscarriage is not defined as an abortion in Utah.
Within hours of the ruling, Democrats on Utah's Capitol Hill opened bill files to tweak the trigger law. One removes the criminal penalties for healthcare providers.
I find it problematic that you're going to criminalize healthcare providers when they're just thinking about the safety of their patients.
Representative Jennifer Daly Provo wants to change rape reporting requirements on who qualifies for an abortion.
The reporting requirement wouldn't be required to only be to police. You could report to a rape crisis center. You could report to a healthcare provider. provider, but you would have to say that I was raped, but it wouldn't necessarily require you to file a police report and open a case with police.
While pleased with the ruling, Governor Spencer Cox has called for more to be done to prevent unwanted pregnancies and help those who carry their babies to term.
We are giving every resource possible to women and babies who will again be impacted by this decision. And so I think it's important that as a state and especially as Republicans that we start focusing more on those issues.
We've already made a commitment to do everything from expanding access to birth control for those that are on Medicaid and providing services like these, including providing services for childcare.
The House Speaker says he's open to that. The Senate President says he is too.
My hope is we as a community, as a legislature, as anyone involved, will actually try to lift and help and to make the adoption process actually more streamlined, easier, and to try to help these women as they go through this.
Representative Carrie Ann Lisenby announced she plans to introduce legislation that would shift funding from abortion services to pregnancy resource centers in light of the new law. Meanwhile, anti-abortion activists say they would also like to see the legislature look at potentially restricting access to abortion pills in the state. On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
With roughly half of states now banning abortion or likely to do so, many big companies are offering to reimburse travel expenses for employees who go out of state for an abortion. Companies making that announcement span a wide range of industries, including Amazon, Starbucks, Apple, Microsoft, Meta, Netflix, JP Morgan, Chase, Comcast, Disney, and more. We have a complete list on our website, fox13now.com. Salt Lake County Mayor Jenny Wilson says she's heartsick about the Supreme Court's decision today, but she says she's not surprised. She believes the decision will negatively impact the physical and mental health of many women. And what she calls the patchwork approach, referring to a state's ability to choose, will create further division.
I think fundamentally my biggest concern is women without means, financial means, good support systems are going to be the most impacted. And that to me is a tragedy. I think women with means and connections and women who can get time off work are going to be able to get to Las Vegas or to Colorado. And that doesn't seem right to me.
Wilson hopes the next steps by Utah lawmakers are, quote, reflective and operate with compassion. In a survey of more than 100 companies on Utah's Silicon Slopes, 50% say they worry Utah's new abortion law will negatively impact their businesses. Utah Tech Leads is a nonpartisan organization dedicated to economic and workforce growth and social mobility for Utah's tech industry. The CEO told Fox 13 News today, some companies are already taking steps to support employees who may be affected by this new trigger law.
So we already have companies who are offering additional leave time and even funding to go out and, whatever they need to do that's medically necessary.
Washington adds many companies push to hire more women, and there are concerns Utah's abortion law will negatively impact their ability to recruit. So much of the divide over abortion comes from our beliefs about the beginnings of human life, often informed by faith. With that in mind, Fox 13 News anchor Max Roth sought the views of Utah religious leaders today.
Utah's two largest faith communities decided against speaking on camera, but each offered written statements. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints saying they believe in the sanctity of human life. Therefore, the church opposes elective abortion for personal or social convenience and counsels its members not to submit to, perform, encourage, pay for, or arrange for such abortions. The Catholic Diocese of Salt Lake City's statement says, in part, we're grateful that the U.S. Supreme Court recognizes the human within the womb, but we also recognize it is the responses of communities to women in need before, during, and after pregnancy and the birth of a child that are the most important to building a culture of life. Other faith communities have anticipated the ruling with concern.
It felt like a gut punch. I really
my first thought was of all of the people whose health care is going to be affected negatively by this.
The Reverend Monica Dobbin serves a Unitarian congregation looking for ways to mobilize against Utah's new restrictions.
We're thinking, how can we support families who don't have access to sex education, who maybe live in rural communities where they don't have a doctor, can't get reliable information from doctors and healthcare providers. It's just a mess.
Rabbi Sam Spector has similar concerns.
I worry about a situation where people with economic means are able to go to states where they can get abortions while women from lower socioeconomic statuses are unable to do so, and then resort to illegal and unsafe abortions that put their lives in danger.
Spector knows there are supporters and opponents of the decision in the pews of Congregation Kol Ami.
There's a lot of gray in this situation, and I think we need to listen to people's stories and to see holiness and goodness in one another.
Rabbi Spector said Judaism in general sees life beginning at birth, in contrast with the view of the Roman Catholic and Latter-day Saints faiths, saying it begins at conception. In studio, Max Roth, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Stick with Fox 13 News as we continue to track the impacts of this decision by the U.S. Supreme Court here in Utah and across the country. We'll have the latest developments on air, online, and at fox13now.com. An investigation is underway tonight after a plane crash in Cache County left 2 people dead. What we've learned next. Plus, it's now legal to buy fireworks in Utah. What you need to know before you light them. Federal investigators have taken over the scene of a deadly plane crash in Cache County. Fox 13 News reporter Brian Champagne was there when rescuers determined there would be no rescue today.
Rescue 72, respond on Ops 1. Have a report of an aircraft that's gone down.
Cache County EMS got the call a little after 9 this morning, but they soon left. There was nothing they could do. Witnesses found the plane in this field and led investigators there. The instructor and student pilot were already deceased. The field is behind a house about a half mile off the 2800 South block of Highway 23 in Mendon, and about 10 miles from the Logan Cache Airport. The 2 were from Utah State University's Aviation Technology program. Today they rolled in the rest of the planes and shut down. Students and staff made a somber exit. USU says they will be offering them counseling. USU put out a statement saying the instructor was Blake Shumway, who had been teaching there since September. Student Michael Carpenter was supposed to graduate this fall. For hours today, Cache deputies and an investigator from USU Police documented and held the scene for federal investigators. As far as what could have happened in the sky today to actually bring that plane down, well, we're all waiting for the NTSB now on that one. In Cache County, Brian Champagne, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, tracking some storms for tomorrow, plus some fire concerns here across the state. Elevated fire concerns for much of Utah, plus the chance for some flash flooding. I'll let you know where. Coming up.
I'm Andrea Urban, and the Utah Jazz didn't make a selection in the NBA draft for the first time in 30 years, but there are some new additions to the team that you should know about. Plus, BYU's Alex Barcelo has a chance to make an NBA roster. I'll tell you where he's headed coming up in sports.
A Utah police sergeant, a detective, 2 police officers, Utah County, and the cities of American Fork and Spanish Fork are all facing a federal lawsuit. It centers on alleged actions taken by the Utah County Major Crimes Task Force in 2019. The law offices of Sykes McAllister claim police pulled Michael Roy over in their search for a dangerous fugitive.
They approached the vehicle with guns drawn in a pre-planned and orchestrated attempt to bring the driver of this vehicle into custody.
Roy claims at least 2 of the officers knew he was not the fugitive they were looking for, but they continued to use excessive force, unlawful seizure, outrageous conduct, and more. Sorensen says the purpose of the lawsuit is to hold the officers accountable. They're selling fireworks in Utah tonight, and although you can't light them just yet, it's important to stay safe when you finally can during the 4th of July and Pioneer Day holidays. You should check for restrictions in your area. Remember not to let children handle fireworks. Keep water nearby and be careful with them. TNT Fireworks shares a few more recommendations.
We are asking everyone in Utah find a flat location, and we're encouraging you to find something that has asphalt, concrete, dirt. Stay away from those flammable materials.
Lighting fireworks in Utah is legal only from July 2nd to July 5th and from July 22nd to July 25th, and only according to restrictions in your area. Science was the reason many Utah middle school students enjoyed some fun in the sun today. They were testing their self-programmed autonomous cars as part of a week-long Salt Lake Community STEM camp. County students have been working with Salt Lake Community College faculty. They learned about engineering and scientific topics related to developing a self-driving car.
I learned a whole bunch of new stuff. It's just really interesting. I think this stuff should be available to every child.
This has honestly been a much greater experience than just sitting there and looking at a TV screen, because you actually get to interact with really cool, fun people and learn amazing new things about the world that you probably never would have known even existed if you had never come here.
A couple of very bright young people. Camp Director Quentin McCrae says it is great to catch the attention of these students now, pre-high school, so they can go into high school hyped up and wanting to take some of these STEM classes.
You know, I love to hear that. STEM, STEAM, all of the way. Very well-spoken kids. They're definitely going to go somewhere. Hour-by-hour forecast tonight. Our temperatures are going somewhere. Those are going to be cooler tonight and then hotter again tomorrow. So Saturday at 6 a.m. When you wake up, it'll be about 55 to 65 here across the state. Then we're going to have another hot day near 90 for the Wasatch Front. We likely stay dry and sunny for much of the Wasatch Front, but we're going to have still some more chances for showers and thunderstorms into southern, eastern, and then way off to our east. Look at that into tomorrow afternoon into New Mexico and Colorado. Much heavier rainfall. So our road trip weather, here's what you need to know. Through the weekend, we're going to continue with a monsoonal pattern, mainly some afternoon thunderstorms. Some of those could end up causing some flash flooding in some of our recreation areas or causing some slick roads or areas of flooding. So you'll just want to make sure you're never driving through a flooded road or walking through a flooded wash. Now, we're also going to have moderate air quality, so if you can, consolidate your trips. That flash flood potential for tomorrow is possible for Bryce Canyon, Capitol Reef, Grand Staircase, Natural Bridges, Grand Gulch, and the San Rafael Swell. Possible means some slot canyons, dry washes, and small streams may experience flash flooding. St. George, you're close to 105 for much of your 7-day forecast, so you are hot over the next weekend, pretty consistent. That chance for some pop-up thunderstorms during the afternoon hours, overnight temps in the 70s. Here along the Wasatch Front, tomorrow we're close to 90. Sunday, mostly sunny here in Salt Lake, highs near 90. So if you're going to the Hill Air Show this weekend, we're going to have those temperatures in the 70s at 10 a.m. into the 80s at noon, and then close to 90 degrees during the afternoon hours. Monday, 95 here in Salt Lake. Let me show you this chance for rain the next couple of afternoons. I'll pause this for you. Saturday at 5 p.m. We could see some pockets of heavier rain, mainly south of I-70 and east of I-15. Few outliers possible. Sunday afternoon, same thing. Chances for showers into eastern and southern Utah. Monday, same thing. Mainly off to our east, as we're going to see that heaviest rainfall through Colorado and New Mexico. For next Tuesday here in Salt Lake, we are flirting with that century mark close to 100 degrees. So we're going to be hot, above average. 84 is a normal high this time of year. And then we'll keep you in the mid-90s through the middle of next week.
Last night was the NBA draft, and for the first time since 1992, the Utah Jazz did not make a selection. Now, this doesn't mean that the Jazz haven't made moves, though. Remember those pre-draft mini camps that Utah hosted, despite not having a draft pick? Well, here's why. After the draft wrapped up, the Jazz signed UCLA guard Johnny Juzang to a two-way contract. Juzang was one of the players who worked out with the Jazz during the offseason, and he was a part of that Final Four run in 2021 and followed that with a trip to the Sweet 16 in 2022. Juzang averaged 16 points and 5 rebounds that last season with the Bruins. In addition, the Jazz have signed 4 other players to free agent deals. Kofi Cockburn from the University of Illinois and Marquette's Daryl Morcell have signed an Exhibit 10 deal, while Georgia Tech's Jordan Usher and Jonathan Williams have agreed to a Summer League deal. Now, former BYU basketball standout Alex Barcelo will get his shot at making an NBA roster. He will be joining the Toronto Raptors Summer League team. Barcelo ranked 4th in the West Coast Conference in scoring this past season, averaging 17 points per game. And another BYU product will play this Summer League. Former BYU Cougar and Utah native Yoli Childs is set to join the Utah Jazz Summer League roster before heading overseas to play in Germany. Childs played for the Salt Lake City Stars this past season. And BYU head coach Kalani Sitake is headed into his 7th season with the Cougars. And on Media Day, I asked the players what it means to play under a head coach like Kalani Sitake.
Oh, it means the world. He looks out for his boys. He cares about us. He wants us to succeed. He wants us to get to the next level. He wants us to have a great time at BYU. And he's just a good role model to look up to. So I love Kalani Sitake with my whole heart.
The way he does things to benefit us, we see that all the way from how he runs things at the top to how it comes down to our player-run team. And it just makes playing football that much more fun.
He's a player's coach. I would say just kind of the care that he shows for the program and for the individuals that make up the program.
Kalani's a guy who adapts every year. Our team is different, the players are different, and he always just has a way of speaking to what we need off the field and on the field. So I think that's why we function so well. It's because of him and the man he is.
In Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Finals tonight, if Colorado gets the win, Lord Stanley is theirs. Late in the first period, the breakaway, and Tampa Bay scores first, 1-0. The Avs tie it up in the second off the deflection and in 1-1 tie. But let's jump to the third. It's a tie game at 2 apiece when Andre Palat gets a nice shot at it, and Tampa Bay wins Game 5 3-2. Game 6 will be played Sunday in Tampa. We'll be right back.
Thanks for watching Fox 13 News at 9. Quickcast is up next.